They were told it was impossible. They were warned it would destroy cities. And still, they built it. On a quiet desert morning in July 1945, in the barren sands of New Mexico, a group of men stood behind dark goggles, holding their breath. Some whispered prayers. Some smiled nervously. Some stared at the horizon as if waiting for God Himself to appear. At exactly 5:29 a.m., the night turned into a second sun. The earth shook. The sky burned purple, then white. And in that moment, humanity crossed a line it could never uncross again. This is not a story about a bomb. This is a story about fear, genius, secrecy, ambition, and the United States of America at the edge of the unknown. In the late 1930s, the world was sliding toward catastrophe. Adolf Hitler's Germany was advancing across Europe, and rumors spread among physicists like wildfire. Rumors that Nazi scientists might be working on a weapon so powerful it could end wars instantly. Among those who feared this possibility most were Jewish scientists who had fled Europe and found refuge in the United States. They knew German science, they knew German ambition, and they knew what would happen if Hitler reached this discovery first. One of those men was Albert Einstein. Though famous for relativity, Einstein had not imagined his equations would help unlock mass destruction. Yet in 1939, persuaded by fellow scientists, he signed a letter to President Franklin Roosevelt. That letter warned that a new type of bomb based on nuclear fission might be possible and that Germany could already be working on it. Roosevelt read the letter carefully. He did not fully understand the science, but he understood the danger. Quietly, without public announcement, the United States began the most secret, expensive, and ambitious scientific project in history. It would later be called the Manhattan Project, though its work stretched far beyond Manhattan.
At first, progress was slow. The science was new, uranium was rare. Nobody had ever built anything like this before. But after the attack on Pearl Harbor in December 1941, everything changed. America was now at war, and failure was not an option. The government poured unimaginable resources into the project, over $2 billion at the time, equivalent to tens of billions today. Entire cities were built in secret: Oak Ridge in Tennessee, Hanford in Washington, and Los Alamos in New Mexico. These towns did not exist on maps. Their residents were told almost nothing about what they were working on. Letters were censored. Conversations were monitored. Even husbands and wives often had no idea what the other was doing. At the heart of Los Alamos stood a thin, intense man with haunted eyes and a cigarette always burning between his fingers, J. Robert Oppenheimer. Brilliant, poetic, and deeply conflicted, Oppenheimer was chosen to lead the scientific effort. Many doubted him. He had no Nobel Prize. He was not an administrator. He had left-wing political associations. But he had something rare. He understood both the science and the scientists. Oppenheimer gathered the greatest minds of the era: Enrico Fermi, Richard Feynman, Niels Bohr, and many others. Some were immigrants. Some were refugees. All were racing against time. They worked day and night, solving problems no human had ever solved before. How do you purify uranium? How do you trigger a nuclear chain reaction? How do you calculate an explosion that has never existed? Fear followed them everywhere. Fear that the bomb might ignite the atmosphere and destroy the earth. Fear that Germany might finish first. Fear of what would happen if they succeeded. By 1944, it became clear that Germany was losing the war and had not built a bomb. Some scientists argued the project should stop, but by then, momentum was unstoppable. The weapon was nearly complete, and another enemy remained: Japan.
Two different bombs were designed. One used uranium, the other used plutonium. The plutonium bomb was more complex and had never been tested, so a test was scheduled in the New Mexico desert. They named it Trinity. On the night before the test, rain fell unexpectedly. Equipment short-circuited. Some scientists predicted failure, others predicted annihilation. Oppenheimer recalled a line from the Bhagavad Gita, "Now I am become death, the destroyer of worlds." When the bomb exploded, the blast was seen over 200 miles away. A mushroom cloud rose into the sky. Some observers cheered, some wept. One scientist vomited. The weapon worked. Within weeks, President Harry S. Truman faced an unimaginable decision: invade Japan and risk millions of casualties, or use the new weapon and force surrender. Advisors debated endlessly. Time was short. Lives were already being lost every day. On August 6, 1945, an American bomber named Enola Gay dropped the uranium bomb over Hiroshima. The city vanished in a flash. Tens of thousands died instantly. Many more suffered burns, radiation sickness, and slow, painful deaths. 3 days later, a second bomb destroyed Nagasaki.
Japan surrendered. The war ended. The world changed forever. In America, celebrations erupted. Soldiers came home. Factories slowed. But among the scientists, joy was mixed with horror. They had achieved the impossible and unleashed something they could not control. Oppenheimer later said that physicists had known sin. In the years that followed, the United States tried to keep its nuclear monopoly. It failed. The Soviet Union built its own bomb. Then hydrogen bombs followed, hundreds of times more powerful. The Cold War began, defined by the terrifying balance of mutually assured destruction. Oppenheimer himself fell from grace. In the 1950s, during the Red Scare, his past associations were used against him. He was stripped of his security clearance, publicly humiliated, and pushed out of power by the very government he had served. The Manhattan Project had won a war, but it had also created a permanent shadow over humanity. Cities could be erased in seconds. Civilization could end in hours. And all of it began with fear, intelligence, secrecy, and a decision made behind closed doors. Today, visitors walk through museums in Los Alamos. They see old notebooks, faded photographs, simple desks where impossible calculations were once scribbled. Tourists take photos, students read plaques, but the desert remembers. Because once in that quiet place, America proved that human genius could rival the power of the sun. And the world has never been the same since.